What's up, guys? I'm back. I already cast one series tonight, and now I can't even talk. That's how much the first series took out of me. Now it's time to do another series. First, we did Div A. We had a first seed versus 8th seed match down in Div A, or rather up in Div A, between Boogans Forever and Gilly Shark at Bingo Night, where Gilly Shark at Bingo Night, our number 8 seed in Div A, took out Boogans Forever with a huge upset. It was fantastic. We've got another series. Hopefully, it'll be equally fantastic. This one's going to be Div D West, and we have yet another number 1 seed versus number 8 seed match. This one is going to be Fountain Snipers. That's our number 1 seed versus Cosmos, our number 2 seed. So let's take a closer look at our matchup for tonight. So, as we can see the records here, we do see the numbers clearly favoring Fountain Snipers, as they are the number 1 seed with an 8-2 series record. They've lost only 2 series in the regular season, and neither of those series that they lost were to Cosmos, their current opponent right now. They're also standing at 16-5 in maps, so it's actually something like, oh my god, let's do math here. That's better than a 75% win rate. And so is their actual series win rate is 80%. That one's actually pretty easy math. Cosmos, on the other hand, as the 8th seed, they are a series that is not quite batting 500, not quite there, but they did manage to squeak into playoffs, which is just the story of what being an 8th seed means. So typically these are often very David and Goliath-esque matchups. Too bad Goliath's not here because he's playing on Durotan's couch in another division. What a joke that was. Cut the stream. Oh my god, so bad. But anyway, so potentially, we'll see how this goes. We did have a huge upset earlier on. Don't know if we're going to have that same thing happen right now with these different teams, but at the very least, hopefully it'll be an exciting series. And let me tell you a little bit more about these teams. So first of all, the Fountain Snipers, they've gone through several rebrands. They've been together, I think, about 6 or 7 seasons. They're the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, who were formerly known as Mosley and the Arkanauts. And they've kind of been pretty consistent together over the past 6 or 7 seasons. They started out in Div E, they went up to Div D. I believe they did win a Div E championship. There was even a season where they went to Div C. They've recently moved back down to D, and I don't think that's necessarily means they did bad in Div C, but it does mean that, or part of the reason why I think is just that there is no Storm division this season, and because of that, the divisions kind of all just got compressed downward, where a lot of teams went down a division because the top division in previous seasons no longer exists. So in general, most teams went down a bit, and not necessarily because they did poorly in the division that they were previously in. But yeah, so Fountain Snipers, they've got a lot of history, been together many seasons. One of the things that's great about this team is that they've really grown over time as a team together. And they have several members who are OGs of the squad, like Arco, like Atomic Onion, who's formerly known as Meeting, like Mosley. And they also have a second generation of players who at some point, trying to sustain a team over several seasons, somebody might move on. And their second generation of players includes people like Silver Jackal, Lompico, and Dagny. Now, on the other hand, Cosmos is a team that actually has... Oh my god, damn, we got some gifted subs. Thank you so much, Hex337, for your gifted subs. We do have... Cosmos is actually a pretty old school team. They've been around, according to NGS, as early as Season 8. So they've been around for a while. However, they definitely have had several seasons off. Some of these players are OGs returning to that team. Odd Thought, Atlantis AL are also 2 players who have played on Cosmos in the past. The rest of the players, I didn't check closely enough, but they may be new players since this was a team that was rebuilt for this season after several seasons off. And one interesting kind of factoid about this is that certain members of Mosley and the Arkanauts, who are then known as the Nerd Herders and are now known as the Fountain Snipers, were formerly members of Cosmos. Certainly Silver Jackal for sure. There was even some banter about Odd Thought was making about Silver Jackal while we were in the lobby doing the map picks and bans. According to the NGS website, Mosley was also previously on Cosmos. Now, of course, I'm just looking at the NGS website where, it says things like this player joined team. Of course, sometimes it's possible that when it says that, a player may have joined a team at some point, but I don't know if they ever actually played for the team. I'd have to dig a little bit deeper to find out if that were actually true. But either way, at least on paper, according to the records, both Mosley and Silver Jackal were currently playing for Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arkanauts, formerly played for Cosmos. If that was confusing, I'm sorry, but also no, I'm not. Anyway, so glad to have you guys tonight. I already cast one series tonight. With any luck, we'll be going into our series soon. If you don't know me, I'm King Andrew. I am an NGS player, and I'm an NGS caster. I'm an ARAM enthusiast. I'm a former school teacher, and I'm a voice actor. I wear many hats. One of my favorite hats is my casting hat, because all casters... This is such a bad bit. It's going nowhere. But we're getting close to the end of the season. Playoffs, wonderful time. Can't wait for when we actually get to the semifinals. And all new to this season, all semifinal matches are now best of 5. Of course, we're not there yet. This is a quarterfinals match. So this is still just going to be a best of 3. Cosmos really only has 2 chances to try to make something happen here, to try to see if they can unseat the juggernaut that currently is the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders and formerly known as mostly as the Arkanauts. Let's see how often I can keep that going. So I didn't take a look at our map screen real quick. We see the bans right here. Cosmos banning out Dragonshire and Garden of Terror. Fountain Snipers, on the other hand, banning out Alterac Pass and Battlefield of Eternity. But, no but, doesn't make sense. We are going to Volskaya Foundry as the first map of this series. Let's get into it. Our draft's already going here. All right, so this is Div D. Drafting here is definitely going to be a little bit different from if you were watching my earlier series in Div A. It's probably going to be a little bit different there. One of the things that tends to happen in lower divisions that is much less common in higher divisions is a focus on Stukov. We might see Stukov banned. We might see him picked. Stukov in higher divisions is generally not banned like at all and is sometimes picked, but instead it's going to be the Falstead ban. First one out here. One of the interesting things as we look at the members of the teams is that it does look like Nay, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, but something. Nay on the side of Cosmos, I'm pretty sure is more of a sub-player, at least according to the Heroes profile record. They did not play most of the games this season. Instead, it was Dead On, who was more of a regular throughout the season. But, we'll see how things go. The Leo band out is a super interesting one for that to be. That's not something I expect to see in an early ban phase. It's something where I just wonder, is this a preference for... I think it's Mosley who is the offlaner player on the side of Mosley and the Arkanauts. I just keep calling them by their old names. Mosley and the Arkanauts, who were then later known as the Nerd Herders, who are now known as the Fountain Snipers. I kind of love the history going through the names, love saying them all. What's our final band going to be? Zagara is also an interesting one. Zagara is actually, I think, pretty good on this map because Zagara is very much a late game hero. She gets ridiculous power spikes at level 16 and at level 20. And I think this is a pretty late game map because the objective is generally considered fairly weak, that you can generally rely on the game going to level 20. And if it does, Zagara's kind of just has really, really strong numbers that make her honestly just really strong. Does require some protection as she is an immobile hero, and we're going to see our first pick here coming out from the Fountain Snipers. It's going to be Junkrat, played by Silver Jackal. Strong pickup, as Junkrat is a super powerful hero at really all levels of play. Great zoning with the traps, long range poke, really good at just clearing the waves safely, can anchor in a lane. And let's see what Cosmos picks up in their 1-2. Rhaegar Nazebo. The Rhaegar is something that's very much expected, currently just one of the strongest healers in the game. Once you get to level 13, his healing numbers just become really, really strong, and even before that, he'll strengthen the early game with his ability to clear waves, clear mercenary camps. He is a cleanse healer who has a cleanse baseline at level 1. Nazebo is someone who I generally regard as not a terribly strong hero, but again, this is, I think, a fairly good map for him because of the fact that it is a map that can pretty reliably go to the late game and it facilitates his stacking pretty well. I think it's reasonably likely that you can expect to see a Vial Infection Nazebo on this map. Meanwhile, it's going to be the Uther picked up by Lompico and Sonya being played by Mosley. Now, Uther is a strange one to me. Uther these days I typically don't see as very strong as a solo healer. It is, of course, possible that they go for a double healer setup, but for the moment, it is Lompico who has picked Uther. Pretty sure Lompico is their dedicated healer player. Of course, you know, when you are trying to do this thing, you might do, you know, the old switcheroo where you're planning on a double support or a double healer, and you will put your Uther on your dedicated heal player, and then switch it to like, say, your tank player. You could also just run, I'm trying to look at this. Like, can you do actual main tank and healer and DPS? No, not really. And Junkrat's not really someone who you also want as solo DPS, unless you have, like a really nice high damage triple frontline setup with Sonya. Can be pretty high damage for a bruiser, and then like another. I don't think so. I think most likely we're just going to see Arco on tank, and then Atomic Onion, who's formerly known as Meeting, playing on a DPS, and it's just going to be the Uther solo heal. So Tychus going to be banned out, as well as a new Baraka. A slight tank choke, but a lot of good tanks are still up. Diablo's still up. Muradin's still up. There's the Diablo, played by Imbuement, and it's going to be the Tassadar, picked up by Ney. So, do have some concerns right now out of the draft from the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley as the Arcanauts. The Junkrat is something that's fights very slowly, just like slow poke damage over time. The Uther wants fast fights because he doesn't have the numbers to keep going in a long... Okay! All right, at this point, all reasonable analysis goes out of the window, and we're just going to have a Divine Shield. Just a Divine Shield. A Cho'Gall just going off. Anyway, so, like, forget all reasonable analysis. It's kind of just Fountain Snipers at this point, playing with their food because they're the first seed and possibly the better team, but it's also this kind of hubris that can lead to series where the number 8 seed upsets the number 1 seed. Thrall going to be picked up in the solo lane by Frostbite 027. Jeebus H. Christ. Oh, man. Did not see it coming. It totally got me. Really also still don't understand why it's Uther of all healers when you're going to be running Cho'Gall. So, I mean, I guess the thing about picking Uther is that it becomes really such a huge surprise that it's Cho'Gall. So typically, the healers, I think generally there are 2 healers who can kind of telegraph a Cho'Gall. And at least of those 2 are Auriel and Ana. Auriel, because you get so much hope generation that you just constantly get so much healing. And Ana, because Nana Boost is absolutely ridiculous with Cho'Gall. It's just like absolutely broken and unfair. But anyway, we're in our game now. Game number 1, already getting spicy. The game hasn't even really started yet. We have Fountain Snipers. It's the Arknian playing as Cho'Gall. That is going to be Arc on the Cho, Atomic Onion on the Gall, Mosley playing as Sonya, Silver Jackal on the Junkrat, and Lompico will be on the Uther. Their opponents, the number 8 seed, trying to come back, supposedly has pretty good momentum going into this. Diablo played by Imbuement. Frostbite 27 playing Tassadar. Atlantis AL is on the Nazebo. Ney is going to be on that Thrall, and Odd Thought on the Rhaegar. And I talked about Diablo before, where what I believe about Diablo is Diablo really says, when you draft Diablo, it says, I want to win the division. Those are my feelings on Diablo. I just feel that he's an extremely good hero. Said that more about kind of like higher levels of play, but I think if you have someone who's capable of playing Diablo in any division, I think it's a huge asset to your team. Mosley's just going to split off, start capturing the Soak for his team, not bother with any fighting. Now, Cho'Gall is very much a late-game hero. I hate to say it, but it's true that I am not terribly knowledgeable about Cho'Gall talents. I have pretty good all-around knowledge about different heroes in this game, but Cho'Gall is definitely a bit of a blind spot for me. I'm not super interested in the hero. Just like Cho'Gall, I'm not super interested in that fight. Just walking away as Thrall dies too. I don't even know what. Something coming out from Gall. And I guess just all of the heals go onto Cho. And of course, one of the things that helps here is this extra healing received from on the Cho'Gall. I believe that comes from the Cho trait. Right? I'm right? Good. Do I know what I'm talking about? I think I do. Hopefully I do. They just happen to pick one of the heroes that I know the least about in the entire game. I can tell you quite a bit about all other 8 of the heroes in this game, but Cho'Gall is definitely a blind spot for me, other than I know that they are definitely very much late-game heroes. Anyway, things are happening while I'm looking at the chat. Arcneon's going to get caught, but ultimately it doesn't matter. Just going to charge up that arm, run on out of there. Going to be Storm Lightning Shield build Rhaegar. Interesting to see that. Of course, it is also possible that we just see the Lightning Shield at 1 and then not other Lightning Shield talents. But I think more likely if we're going to see a Lightning Shield Rhaegar, they'll probably just go all in. This one will really tell us whether they're going all in on the Lightning Shield or if they're just going to just go back into the healing talents. Definitely, Rhaegar's healing numbers are quite a bit weaker if you don't go for the chain heal talents. I think they're still sufficient, and honestly, even without the chain heal talents, they're probably still better than a solo heal Uther. But we'll just find out for sure as this game goes on. We'll even take a look at the healing numbers right now. So 3,500 from the Rhaegar, and only 1,600 from the Uther. But the Uther for much of this game is probably just going to be focusing really on healing the Cho'Gall. Silver Jackal ideally would just want to play in a way so that he takes very minimal damage, if any at all. Just has that long range on Junkrat, can kind of just poke from a distance, set up traps. W build Sonya does suggest that we're probably going to see a leap out of Mosley. Fountain Sniper is going to be occupying that point for a little while now, but Cosmos will just take the healing camp for their troubles. But they do get blown away. Nay gets knocked in by Silver Jackal, stunned by Uther, and then he just can't stay alive right there. Mosley going in, does have a turret, not going to use it right yet, and that is going to be an invade by Fountain Snipers, and they will get themselves the healing camp that Cosmos started for them. So in the end, we actually did have Rhaegar go into the Earth Living Enchant. So this talent is responsible for huge healing numbers from Rhaegar. You really do lose a lot of healing if you don't go this talent. So I'm kind of happy to see him go. And I think it's fine to go the Lightning Shield at 1. I don't know if it's necessary. Basically, I think I'm just happy to see Earth Living Enchant. I wonder what the rest of Rhaegar's build will be. Meanwhile, Odd Thought getting a start on this turret camp right here, but Arcneon going in on that Cho'Gall. Imbuement's in there, does get a stun onto the Cho'Gall, but is super low now. The health bars for Cosmos just looking a little bit too low there. Arcneon himself at about 25%, but 25% is still bigger than 0%, which is what Diablo had there. It's going to be Cho inside the Protector. So now Fountain Snipers only have 3 total bodies on the field, even with all 5 of their players in the game. Protector getting burned down pretty fast. Gets a little bit of the wall heal here. Looks like it's probably just going to go for finishing the wall. Then actually needs to be kind of careful. Doesn't want Junkrat in particular kind of getting caught back there in the middle of the enemy team. Cho'Gall can afford it. Junkrat can't really. Now they will move top and actually get a little bit of progress on the top wall. All right, so that is the whole top wall, and I think that's about as much as they'll get. I did see the that charge up from the ranged, the gunner position of the Protector. Could probably use that to target the fort a little bit more. Could probably get a couple more shots off and just some free damage, but right now kind of just playing around. Doesn't want to go in too deep, which is fair. Meanwhile, Lompico gets caught back by the Force Wall, and Jesus Christ, Fountain Snipers are already at level 10. It feels so early in the game to me, and Cosmos are pretty far behind, almost a full 2 levels down. So that Divine Shield from Lompico will keep him alive. It is typically considered suboptimal for Uther to have to Divine Shield himself, but in this case, Fountain Sniper is already up 2 levels, now more like 1.5, and using that Divine Shield keeps him in the lead. And of course, one of the interesting things we can always see later on is the potential AoE Divine Shield, if that catches both If that, well, I mean, it mainly the Divine Shield, in this case, I think wants to go on the Cho'Gall. But if it goes on anyone else, that's fantastic too. Level 10 talents here going to be picked up pretty soon by Cosmos. We'll see what they're going to go. So we do see the W build, the Flame Stomp build from the Diablo. Usually does suggest Lightning Breath, and there it is. Sometimes, of course, you might do the Flame Stomp and Q hybrid, going the Q talents at 13-16, in which case APOC does actually make a little bit more sense. But this most likely indicates we're going to see the full W build, or perhaps like what we saw in the previous series, W at 13 and then Q at 16. So, Cho'Gall looking to come in here. Does get flipped over despite receiving an Unstoppable. There's the Twisting Nether out of the Cho'Gall, and they've just stunned Imbuement. The Riptire goes out. Frostbite has like 260 hit points, getting a couple of heals from Onthought, and he will heal up pretty quickly with that chain heal with the Earth Living Enchant from the Rhaegar. It's going to be a Bloodlust. That is kind of crazy. Kind of crazy, but at the same time, maybe not? I don't know. I still think the Bloodlust is... I'm trying to both think of the Bloodlust, like trying to think what are the arguments in favor for it, as well as what are the things that shut it down. Okay, there's the Divine Shield, keeping Cho'Gall alive. Now, on the one hand, the combination of Lightning Breath, Bloodlust, and Earthquake does mean that they might be able to just kind of trap the members of Fountain Snipers with a good engage. But I think Cho'Gall has a way out. Sonya, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if they can pull that off. I see something there. I see something between the Earthquake, the Lightning Breath, and the Bloodlust. But we'll see how well it works out. Is going to be an AA Tassadar, so potentially benefiting from the Bloodlust. And despite it being 13-11 in favor of Imbuement, oh my god, what's going on here? Finds the charge. Unstoppable goes on to the Arcneon. Twisting Nether, I think, is not going to really catch anything, except Imbuement is kind of walking into it, but it doesn't really matter. And Arcneon, despite just walking into the fort, also just walks out without much of a hassle. "13 Talontier picked up that well met from the Uther. What else do we have here? Full trap build out of Silver Jackal. And it is going to be Mosley occupying the point and getting that beacon ticked in favor of Fountain Snipers. All right, this is kind of tricky. Like, what does Cosmos really want to do here? I almost kind of feel like with a Nazeebo and being down 13 Talontier advantage, that maybe Nazeebo should be like in another lane, continuing to get Vial Infection stacks rather, and also like getting some structure damage here instead of them just kind of just dancing around here in this lane. They still don't have 13. Yeah, I think I will call this as being a little bit of not the ideal choice for Cosmos, and they're just going to get pulled into a fight. Down level 13 Talontier advantage. Diablo is fully out of this fight, but they're trying to get the kill onto Cho'Gall. I don't think it's going to happen, though. Cho'Gall is at half health. Healing comes in. The Uther really good at preventing the kills on the Cho'Gall, both with the single burst heal as well as the armor. Cho'Gall eventually, though, just going to get into the Protector. So far, it really does just kind of look like all Fountain Snipers. They've got all the kills. They've got all of the structure takedowns. Nay is looking really, really low there. Has to be careful of those Dread Orbs. And Fountain Snipers are up 2 levels. Imbuement, though, they're going to find their first kill, or are they? It's an Uther with a Divine Shield, but can he get far away enough? Nay is chasing, gets the lightning, gets the chain lightning, but does not connect with the Feral Wolf. Is that the actual name of the talent? Let's take a look. Feral Spirit. Yeah, and now we have Cosmos down like almost a full 2 levels. So I really would have liked to see them not just stay in that top lane as 5 and instead move people down to these other lanes again. Like, Nazeebo is already doing a really good job of stacking. He's actually very much on his way to the 175 stacks needed for Vial Infection. But I still feel that aside from the stacks, he could have gotten structure damage done in these other lanes, just split pushing. instead of staying with his team. And of course, also helping his team get level 13 for that fight. Riptire is going to go out, connects onto every member except for Frostbite on Cosmos. There's the Lightning Breath, but I think Fountain Snipers just walk on out of there. A root connects, but everyone on Fountain Snipers is ultimately just fine. They'll pick up the healing camp uncontested with level 16 Talontier advantage, while Cosmos just going to pick up their own siege camp. Fountain Snipers looking for a potential invade. They don't even care about whether or not they can get the camp. They just want the fight. That was a big three-man Twilight Hammer, but ultimately doesn't achieve much else. And now the Earthquake does come in, but we do have that all that health regen, charging up that Surging Fist, and also the mobility. But oh no, Arcneon, I was going to say, maybe bit off a little bit more than they can chew, but of course the Divine Shield comes out. There's just so many like double fail-safes to keep them alive. It's kind of just what Uther does as a character. Doesn't give you long sustained fights, but he does really just give you some like big, hard no buttons that prevent the other team from actually getting a kill. So 16 Talontier has been in for a while now for Fountain Snipers. One big power spike you generally see at level 16 is this Benediction out of Uther. Essentially a mini rewind, depending on, it reduces the cooldown of a single ability and also gives you a mana refund. Often it's preferred to use this with the stun so that you can do an overlapping double stun. But can sometimes also work, especially I would say the second best would be to use the single target heal. Single target heal is called, let's take a look, Holy Light. It's been a while. It's not often these days that I see Uther. I do respect the Uther as a character. I did start playing in 2016 when Uther was actually very common. Of course, then there weren't as many healers in the game as there are now. A lot of the like high sustain healers also like didn't exist back then. I'm talking things like Lucio, Stukov. At least in 2015. I forget when Lucio was actually added, whether it was 2016 or 2017. I'm not sure. Brightwing was also a very different hero. She went through at least one rework before she became what she is today. But there was a time when Uther was actually just straight up a meta healer and was played very commonly as a solo heal. Those days, of course, are long gone, but a lot of the ways that Uther works like still kind of apply. Because even back then when he was meta, he was never going to be like a numbers healer or a sustain healer. He was very much more about saves, about just strong single target heals, about ending the fight quickly with that additional crowd control that he provides with his stun. And of course, Divine Shield. And sometimes how that can not only save a target, but also enable a target to be really, really aggressive. All right, Arcneon going to be charging up that Surging Fist, possibly looking to go in there, but I think the charge, doesn't it expire at some point? Yeah, so it looks like the Surging Fist eventually expired. But, I mean, at this point, they control the point, so they don't really need to force anything. They can't... Fountain Snipers very much can't afford to just dance around here. I think Cosmos really needs to be more aggressive. They've got lanes pushing where there's positive pressure for Fountain Snipers. There's a level lead against them. Oh no, I think Atlantis AL gets caught. And he doesn't have Ice Block. He did go Superstition. He's somehow getting just enough healing, but in the end, actually not enough. And I think we're going to see the first couple kills in favor of Cosmos, and somehow this fight goes in favor of Cosmos, despite that first kill going onto Nazebo. All right, so some signs of life from Cosmos. I think, yeah, with so many members dead, they really need only one person on this, and they need the rest of the members on their team pushing. It's a little bit hard to say who. I would actually venture to say that I think it would be better for Diablo to hold the point and for Thrall and Rhaegar to push. I think Thrall and Rhaegar can actually do more damage. And the heals also makes it so that they can kind of just continue to push even when they don't have a minion wave. Kind of. It's a little bit hard. So yeah, they're not getting... Like, I think they eventually get the point. I don't think there is enough time for Fountain Snipers to contest this, but Fountain Snipers will soon have 20. Atlantis AL, meanwhile, is at 169 stacks. So for sure, we will see the Vile Infection Nazebo. Will get the stacks in time, but this is now looking a little bit iffy for Cosmos. They have the Protector. But, I mean, look at how aggressive Mosley is being. Oh, but he did get pushed over. Does jump in, cleanse onto Atlantis, and Mosley might go down again. Does get those Uther heals, getting him to stay alive, and it might be Ney who actually goes down. Mosley, living on a knife's edge. Has barely any health, but does manage to get out of there alive, and the only kill in that fight going to be on Ney playing on that Thrall. I totally forgot that this was a Bloodlust. That's where all that extra healing came in. These are also not typically the heroes that I expect for a Bloodlust comp. Actually, Thrall is really good with Bloodlust, and also that combines well with the Earthquake. But meanwhile, I don't know. We're talking about things going well for Cosmos, but they're actually looking at a moment right now where they could potentially be losing more heroes. Stun goes off onto Oddthought with that Twilight Hammer, but eventually he is able to just get out of there. Or is he? Mosley continues to chase, but I think he's just fine. So yeah, they got the Protector, but they also had to deal with level 20 talent tier advantage against them in favor of the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, who are also formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts. I definitely have not been saying all three names for a while now. Archean charging in. Ney gets booped out, and it's still level 20 talent tier advantage in favor. So they've still got time where they can just bully and push. I think they go for the keep. Just get those Cho'Gall orbs onto it, get grenades from Junkrat. Instead, he's gonna throw out the Riptire. It does detonate. It is not a level 20 Riptire, so no cooldown reduction. Instead, going for the Cannonball. So map advantage is looking hugely in favor of the Fountain Snipers. This is how I usually kind of see things going for Fountain Snipers. I feel like most of the times when I've seen them, they're usually looking pretty dominant. Of course, here they are going against the number 8 seeded team. There are teams in the division that have beaten them. One of those teams that has beaten them, I believe, is Maximum Thrust, that is still in the division. And by still in the division, I mean is still, I believe, actually won their quarterfinal playoff matchup and will be in the semifinals. Need to check. I don't think it works out that those two teams would necessarily play each other next. No, it doesn't. All right, Siege Camp's going to be picked up by both teams as level 20 talent tier finally does come in for Cosmos. Oh, we are not going to see Vile Infection. I'm a little concerned about that. I feel like, I mean, yeah, like, both of Nazeebo's heroic upgrades are good, but I feel like if you so comfortably got the Vile Infection stacks to actually just go it. It is something also that Uther struggles immensely against. So, little disappointed there, but, you know, we'll see how it goes for them. See if they can pull out the win. They do have the Bloodlust. Upgraded Bloodlust. Upgraded Earthquake. Ooh, upgraded Bloodlust. Well, yeah, more so the upgraded Earthquake. The combination of Bloodlust and Earthquake is actually really, really nice, and that is something that I think can potentially favor them. But, oh, and we see the redemption from the Uther, not the upgraded Divine Shield. So upgraded Divine Shield is also something that I felt could be really, really strong into this combination of Bloodlust and level 20 Earthquake. So we won't see the AoE Divine Shield. The redemption is like something that is historically pretty common, but I think specifically in this case, against Bloodlust and Earthquake, I do think the AoE Divine Shield would have probably been the stronger pick here if you can get that hitting multiple members of your team when Cosmos thinks they have an advantage with Earthquake and Bloodlust, because suddenly they don't if that Divine Shield goes off on your entire team. Anyway, Cleanse does go out, and there's the Bloodlust. Imbuement goes in, but does get stunned, and I think we're just going to kind of see a disengage here. The Bloodlust mostly scaring Fountain Snipers back behind their gate. Kind of just have a trade between the Twisting Nether and the Bloodlust. Every other heroic choice still up. Oh no, Ney is getting caught, and ultimately will be the first to go down in this fight. Oh, Nazebo's not even here. This is a 4v3 or a 5v3. I think this is just going to be a one fight in favor of Fountain Snipers. And if it is, it might also just mean game in their favor as well. Mosley always living on a knife's edge, just constantly at barely any hit points. Frostbite ultimately going to go down as well. And Atlantis arriving late. Don't think they can do anything. Diablo's still up. The health bars are low, which is kind of the disadvantage of Uther. Question is, do they have taps? Luckily, there's a lot of self-sustain out of the Cho'Gall. Cho'Gall just moving in, and I mean, at this point, they might just be looking at core. They already got some permanent damage on the core, just courtesy of their bot lane pressure with having 2 structures against none in that lane. Cho'Gall is going to be flipped over. Oh my god, Gary just gets burned so quickly there, and that is going to be imbuement going down, and that has to be game number 1 going in favor of the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts. Taking the kind of expected game number 1 win in this series. We'll see what Fountain Snipers, or just kidding, we'll see what Cosmos has in the tank, see if they can bring it back. As we'll take a look at our summary screen, see how things went stat-wise. Huge numbers coming out of the Junkrat, which is kind of to be expected. How did everything else go? Lower healing numbers out of the Uther compared to the Rhaegar, which is, again, something also to be expected. But, of course, part of the way the Uther works is not in providing lots of heals to your team, but providing heals at the right time that prevent kills. It's very, when played well, Uther's healing is very meaningful, even if the numbers aren't very high. So, definitely some decision making that I feel could be improved on by Cosmos. We'll see how things go in the next game. We'll see if this Cho'Gall continues to be a thing. I did not see that coming. And ultimately, the combination of the Uther with the Cho'Gall, I think worked out just fine. Giving those single target heals to Cho'Gall, especially with Sonya, who has pretty good self-healing on her own. And Junkrat, who, when played well, is a very low resource DPS. Shouldn't really be requiring too much healing from his healer if the Junkrat is playing well. Take a quick look at the talent builds as well. Of course, the Cho'Gall stuff is something that I don't quite understand. I have something like I have something like 1 lifetime game on Gall and maybe like 2 lifetime games on Cho. Not really a huge fan of it, but we're already going into our second game of the series, so let's take a quick look back here as I start talking about Game 2. So if you're here, welcome. Hope you're having a good time. This is my second series that I'm casting tonight. I already cast a number 1 seed versus number 8 seed in Div A. That was Boogans Forever versus Gilly Shark at Bingo Night with a huge upset. Gilly Shark at Bingo Night upsetting the number 1 seed and continuing on with their playoff life. Cosmos right here trying to do the same thing, but it's looking tough. They're also a number 8 seed against the number 1 seed in the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, who are formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts. Also, go take a look at our map screen, as we do have our second map in the series. We'll also update things to reflect the fact that the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts, were indeed the winner of Game 1. And for Game number 2, we are going to be going to Braxis Holdout. So it is interesting to see Braxis hold out. I personally, Braxis is honestly one of my least favorite maps in the game. It is a very snowbally map. It is a map where the early game matters a lot. And it is also a map where some combination of the offlane matters, but also how you play the rotations with the offlane matters as well. So Cosmos going to be picking that map. Typically, the way I think it works out in Storm League a lot of times is you're kind of just hoping that your offlaner has the better 1v1 matchup against your opponent's offlaner, and also that your 4-man is also beating your other team's 4-man, and they're kind of just played 4-man versus 4-man versus 4-man and offlane versus offlane. In a competitive setting, it's supposed to be a little bit more flexible, where in the draft you will try to focus on getting heroes like Brightwing, like Genji, who are good at supporting the offlaner, creating a 2v1 up top to just shift things around a little bit and not just hope that your matchup is a win. Instead, playing things a little bit more flexibly, force rotations, try to secure kills with ganks, and such. So I wonder what they have in store. Wave clear matters a lot on this map as well when you're dealing with the Zerg wave. Yeah. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? I ran out of things to say. Hate it. Let's take a look at the chat. The idea of one thing that I definitely didn't think of as is being pointed out is Archon with Bloodlust is actually like insane, especially if it is unlimited Archon. And the ult combination of Cosmos ultimately was strong. I think one of my biggest concerns in that game was the Nazebo. The Nazebo is someone who does not synergize very well with the Bloodlust. The strength of Nazebo on that map is the fact that it's a map where you can pretty reliably get the stacks you need for Vile Infection and pretty reliably get to level 20. But he didn't even go for Vile Infection. So that was the main pick in that draft that I think was a little questionable. We'll see what's going to go on in this next game. Cosmos has their season life on the line right now, and they're going to fight it out on Braxis Holdout. We'll see if they can make something happen here. I wonder if we'll just see a ban on Cho'Gall so that they don't have to deal with that again. Cho'Gall is probably not great on this map, question mark? I don't even know. Certainly, Cho'Gall is definitely a late game hero, and this is late game heroes. This is a map where the early game definitely matters a lot. So it definitely on paper is not a perfect pick. I wouldn't be surprised if Fountain Snipers just do it just because they can, because I think that's kind of just where they are as a team at the moment. But I also don't want to see Fountain Snipers fall victim to hubris and suddenly give up a game that they didn't have to, and for that to like end up like snowballing into losing the series or something. The Zagara is going to be banned out again. That was definitely banned in the first game. I don't actually remember which team banned it out. It is also a little surprising because Zagara, I mean, you can kind of just siege if Zagara is in the bot lane. You can just find a way to put Banelings and Hydras and the infested drop pod just down on the enemy front wall. But Zagara also, once again, very much a late game hero. So this is an early game map where you might never see the big power spikes that Zagara has at 16 and 20 if you pick Zagara, who is not very strong in the early game. The Leo's going to be banned out again. That was definitely banned out before, so I think that's just a target ban on Mosley. All these bans look familiar, just trying to remember to see if they were all on the same team. Falstad, I think also pretty good for, I did mention before how one of the ways that sometimes is important to play this map is to use globals that can use their global against the enemy offlaner, try to get a gank, and take control of the top point. First ban from Cosmos. What's it going to be? It's going to be the Johanna. I feel like these might be the same. I feel like these might be all of the same 4 bans from the very first game. Correct me if I'm wrong. All right. What is that first pick going to be out of Fountain Snipers? It's going to be the Chromie. Chromie is something that I don't really expect to see as a first pick. What I do think is nice about Chromie is that I think she can position kind of safely around the walls that kind of block the point and send her damage through those walls. So she can kind of just lob damage spells in while being relatively safe herself, and that poke can kind of wear down the enemy team. So I think it's a decent choice. Tyke is going to be picked up by Frostbite, and Oddthought going to be reprising his role on the Rhaegar. Rhaegar's sustain healing really does rely also on some late game talents. Well, I guess there is Earth Living Enchant at 4, but then there's also Tidal Waves at 13 that is important for his healing numbers. Frostbite also going for the Tychus is interesting because Frostbite was more of our offlane player playing the Thrall last time, and Arco gonna go for the Tyrael. Definitely some interesting picks here. The Tyrael is something where I'm like kind of wondering what is the idea here with the Tyrael, and I'm sure we'll find out more as the draft goes on and the game goes on. Tychus is a hero with pretty good wave clear, especially at level 7. At level 7, once you do get the melting point upgrade, so it is a nice wave clear hero for the map. Morale. Okay, yeah, I approve. Like, this is kind of a strange map to be juice pirating on, but I respect the fact that they're kind of against a team that is already kind of playing around a little bit, getting really creative with their drafts, and already has a Tyrael. So I respect it, even though it might also be a completely unnecessary ban that was never going to be picked. Final ban of game number 2, possibly the final ban of the series, is going to be ETC. I talked before about how ETC is a tank where it's like, kind of like, I feel like if you end up picking ETC, I'm kind of worried about like, what circumstances led us to even picking ETC instead of a better tank? But in this case, the ETC won't even be picked, he'll be banned. Damn, that's, I feel like the ETC is banned. It's very much a target ban, usually in a lower division. I feel like even in higher divisions, even if someone does play ETC and someone's going to do that, people are not going to bother to ban ETC. They'll just try to farm it. All right, we're going to have the Anubarak picked up by Imbuement, and Nay is going to be on the Thrall. Oh wait, it was Nay who was on the Thrall last game, and it was Frostbite was on the Tassadar. So my mistake. I apologize. All right, Kharazim picked up by Lompico. Exciting. Kharazim is, I think, a super fun hero. I also think that Kharazim is a very underrated hero. I think Kharazim is actually just like a good healer. I would say like in a lower tier than like a lot of the more traditionally meta healers, but I do believe in Kharazim actually, and I think it is very viable when played correctly. And the Deathwing out of Atlantis. Oh my god, that was kind of unexpected. Deathwing often comes as a surprise, which is probably where Deathwing often does best. So that is going to be our draft for game number 2. We'll take a little bit more of a look at the draft as we get into the game. Cosmos, their season life on the line. We're going to see if they can do it. This is the draft they've chosen. We'll see what the Deathwing can do. All right, game number 2, tournament life, season life on the line for Cosmos. And we've got the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts, leading in this series, leading in this division, looking to get a Div D championship. Mosley riding around on that Sonya, on that horse. Lompico is going to be on the Kharazim. Silver Jackal playing Chromie. Atomic Onion is going to be on the Sylvanas, and Arco is going to be on the Tyrael. Their opponents, Cosmos, making their last-ditch attempt with this new draft. The Deathwing. Is it enough? Is it the answer? Deathwing played by Atlantis AL. Imbuement's going to be on the Anubarak this time. Odd Thought on the Rhaegar. Frostbite, 027 on the Tychus, and it's going to be Thrall played by Nay. So we see a little bit of cheese here. Taking out that tower with the black arrows from the Sylvanas, as well as the oh my god, the Kharazim. This is something that this draft is actually really good at. Kharazim with Deadly Reach and the Iron Fist adds a lot of siege damage, Of course, we do have the black arrows already expired, and then the Tyrael providing the shielding to the minions is really good anti-wave clear and provides some extra siege. They're going to straight up take this, but it looks like we have the same thing happening bottom. Rhaegar turns out is pretty good siege himself, especially for a healer. Anubrak providing those beetles, and we're just going to see straight up fort trade. This is it. This is game number 2 between Fountain Snipers and Cosmos. I actually love this. This is fantastic. All right, but can Thrall get out of there? He should be able to. No real engage on Arco, given that he is playing Tyrael. So it's interesting to see like what really the point of this Tyrael was, and at least one thing that the Tyrael can do there is provide that shield to the wave, which is really good for pushing. In the long run, I'm still trying to figure out what the Tyrael's role actually is here. I'm wondering whether this is going to be a Judgment Tyrael or a Sanctification Tyrael. I feel like either one could work and both have some arguments. We already have a Sonya who's almost definitely going leap. I feel like that's just what Mosley's going to do. Mosley, let's take a look at... Okay, actually, Mosley went tough as nails. Did not go W build this game. Does make me wonder if Mosley is actually going to be looking for like a W build Sonya that goes... No, E build Sonya. E build Sonya with Wrath of the Berserker. Anyway, a lot of members from Fountain Snipers looking really, really low, and the first kill of this game actually going to go in favor of Cosmos, taking out Atomic Onion there. Nay's going to be here. It's going to be the 1v1 dodging the spear. Nice by Nay. I don't really know who wins this in the short run, but we do have Lampko rotating up. Lampko definitely dashing in there would be pretty scary for Nay. And the way this is also playing out is that we have Nay on the Thrall as our solo laner, and then Deathwing is in the 4-man, which I think is the better way to play it. One of the great things about Deathwing here is also that Deathwing is a global. So Deathwing can leap up into the sky and then actually land up top to help Nay if it comes down to that. We're also looking at a W build Chromie going for that deep breathing. Often this suggests a temporal loop out of Chromie. We'll see how that works out if it is indeed the temporal loop. We do have a cleanse from Rhaegar for the temporal loop. Tychus typically not a great loop target either. Very, very nice Haunting Wave out of Atomic Onion. Getting out of there, staying alive. And Cosmos actually just hard bullying Fountain Snipers off of this point, and they will just hold bot, but Nay is struggling a little bit. Oh no, Nay thought he was going to get a kill, but there was the rotation there from Lampako and Atomic Onion, and instead it's going to be Nay going down, and now Cosmos does have a problem with this lane. Atomic Onion just going to push. You love to see it, actually, with all the things going on here. And Fountain Snipers, they kind of just need to keep the attention of Cosmos, make sure that Atomic Onion is just not contested right here. So Thrall's going to come back, but Atomic Onion just jumps on out of there. But really nice to see just getting the value out of that Black Arrows on the Sylvanas, getting that macro pressure. Being a rat, something that Sylvanas can do. Sylvanas coming from an interesting angle. Going to rotate through mid to, I think, just regroup to the team. No, actually going to go up top. Expecting Nay to come here, but Nay currently goes in. Oh no, could be a little scary. Shadow Dagger thrown out a little prematurely. Generally speaking, want to get the stacks from the Banshee's Curse before you just throw out that spell. Odd Thought picking up the camp. Looks like possibly a little bit of disconnect with the team as no one was helping. Now Odd Thought is going to hit the tap. And Imbuement's going to start taking the camp, but there's not enough damage from just Imbuement alone. Meanwhile, Nay is getting brought into a fight. Imbuement gets in here as well. First kill, I thought might go into Arco there, but he does manage to Eldruin out. Mosley trying to stay on this point, tries to get it, but ends up costing him his life, and that's going to be a camp taken in favor of Cosmos. Cosmos answering back pretty well in this game number 2. I think the Deathwing is doing some good things. Probably a comfort pick for that player, and I think it's just kind of working out well. Meanwhile, the Tyrael is still a bit of a question mark for me, and I think it needs to hit 10 before it's really going to have its full impact. And I think that's part of why Fountain Snipers is starting to struggle a little bit. The Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arkanauts. And so what a chase this has been. They chased, oh my god, they chased Silver Jackal all the way to Africa to get that kill. And they got it, but they also gave up the beacons in the process. They'll get them back. One of the great things about the Deathwing here, oh, Arco's going down. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if Fountain Sniper's kind of playing with their food here. Because Cosmo's suddenly looking really, really strong. One of the concerns kind of for Fountain Snipers is that they don't really have a hero that consistently does % damage against the Deathwing. We do have the % damage talent out of Sylvanas, but this doesn't actually work on Deathwing because it only works on heroes that are slowed, and Deathwing can't be slowed. So, I mean, what do they've got instead? Basically, the 7-sided strike out of Karazim, which they don't even have yet. And I think soon we're going to have a double beacon capture out of Cosmos. Actually looking... First game really looked like all Fountain Snipers, but this game is actually very much looking like a game that Cosmos can take. They are certainly making this a game. Perhaps they can take it and even make it a series. Arco throws the sword in. And for whatever Fountain Snipers are cooking, it's unfortunately still in the oven, and it doesn't come out of the oven until level 10 once we see heroic upgrades. Yeah, it kind of like... between these heroes, we just have so many heroes that just rely so heavily on heroic upgrades between the Tyrael, the Sonya. Sonya, I do honestly wonder with this build if she is going to be going for Wrath of the Berserker, which I also think is not only probably reasonable, but probably the better choice here. Probably super good into Deathwing, especially as long as you dodge his stuns. And, I mean, other than that, mostly just have to... The only other stun is, well, a new Barak. So yeah, I think a Wrath Sonya is actually potentially the correct choice here, but it does deny you the combination of Leap and Judgment, having both of those. But it's also possible that, okay, it is just going to be Leap. I was wondering if we were going to see Sanctification and Wrath of the Berserker, which I think has its own merits, and I think might even be better than Leap and Judgment. But Leap and Judgment is what we get. We're going to see how well it works. Camp's going to be taken by both teams. So this is where, like, if Fountain Snipers are going to, like, kind of start turning things around, I think it happens here. Wow, we're going to go straight onto a new Barak, and they're actually just deciding they don't care that a new Barak is the tank and that he has a way out of those things. They just chain the CCs so well, and they kill him, but the kill is going to be traded out on to Atomic Onion. Atlantis AL gonna Cataclysm in with that Deathwing. They get the stun. Oh no, but Atlantic AL may have gone into a little bit too much. Instead, the kill is gonna happen first on to Chromie, but he's gonna be traded out for the Deathwing. It's crazy. Lompico, can he get out? Nay is trying to, oh, the dash. Okay, the kill does happen. Nay, I think, is gonna be just fine. And it is a full Zerg wave in favor of Cosmos, and there's no one here to defend this. So soon we're going to have both Mosley and Atomic Onion coming up, but I think not before this whole fort goes down. And it might even get some value against the keep as well. Certainly now that they're here, that does change things quite a bit. So Cosmos not able to push with that objective, but it still does at least secure the fort. Arco's going to be occupying this bush just to get some vision. And Vehement going to be doing something similar. Odd Thought coming out, maybe as kind of a bait. They are just kind of moving around. If they did have any play there, I think they were kind of late on it. And things just kind of return back to neutral. Ooh, I was wondering if they were going to go for the engage here. Can they make the kill happen onto Arco? Does he manage to Eldruin out? Big Wailing Arrow comes in, does hit 2, and kind of just results in a heroic trade. Only one went out for Cosmos, though. Only the Sundering from the Thrall. Judgment just regularly going on to Imbuement. And another Bloodlust. I'm just realizing right now that we have Bloodlust yet again. Cocoon goes out onto Sonya, leaping into the back. Do they just turn on her? They get the camp for themselves, Cosmos that is, and then they look at Sonya, but Sonya is just walking out on there. She does get some movement speed from the Tyrael. Atlantis AL, cataclysming in. That is really hard to use as a verb. Cataclysming. That's probably not an actual word. Would certainly be a lot easier to just say flying in, but that would also be a lot less fun. Camp going to be taken by Fountain Snipers, but they are also just letting this one push against the lane because they've got all 5 here. Someone's going to need to respond to this. Those Hellbats, they do reduce the armor. I believe that does work on structures. One of the Hellbats is down, but even this lone Hellbat is something that needs to be taken care of, and it will be. So taking a look at some other talents going in, we have the In the Rhythm Combat Tactician Tychus. So normally I'm not a huge fan of this build. I think it is situational at best. It is something that I think at higher levels of play, people won't let you get away with this, won't let you just stand around and shoot that long. But I think into a Tyrael and a Sonya, this is a game where I can see this working. Without having like a more consistent stun threat. Oh, but talk about stun threat. Arco's going to commit the Judgment yet again, and combined with the Leap and the Wailing Arrow, it is going to be enough to take Ney out on that Thrall. But Cosmos still going to be playing this. They've got Sonya in the back. Can they do anything to her? Is there a minigun from Frostbite? There it is. There's the fear from the Deathwing. The minigun from Frostbite is going to be enough to take out the Sonya. So this is turning out to be a bit of a common theme and also a little bit of a problem for Fountain Snipers. It does feel like pretty regularly Mosley is being isolated. Once he has leapt in, he is being cocooned and he is being isolated, and then he is being killed off. Goliath's going to be pushing up top. This ain't Durotan's couch. There can't be a... All right, I already made that joke. And it's not even good. All right, Deathwing's going to land down just to help secure the Bruiser camp for Cosmos. This is a real match. This is a real match. Like, first game really just looked like Fountain Snipers being the #1 team in the division, kind of playing with their food. I mean, or maybe it's this game that they're playing with their food. Because Fountain Snipers are down in kills. There is the minigun out of Frostbite. Does have a really big number of stacks. 113. Not sure what that translates into. Yet another revenge kill onto Silver Jackal. Dying yet again. Big burrow charge by Anubrak. Hits 3. Didn't even have Epicenter yet. Mosley was able to teleport out of there, or leap out of there, leap, teleport, almost like it's the same thing, but unfortunately, nowhere for Lompico to go, and they're going to find Arco, or are they? Arco is able to Eldruin over. Oh, stay and do the boss, stay and do the boss. Don't actually need the Odin here. The Odin was definitely unnecessary. Todd also needs to make sure to not die. Okay, they might just kill, do they kill Arco? Okay, they don't kill Arco. Oh my god, I'm so worried here that they're actually just going to lose someone to the boss. But yeah, so Odin committed for the bosses is completely unnecessary there. So the AA DPS of the Odin is actually slightly lower than the AA DPS of a minigun Tychus. Of course, normally the advantage of the Odin is that you have much longer range and you can stutter step. But let's stop talking about stutter stepping and let's talk about the Judgment Tyrael getting yet another kill. That was a short range Judgment. That was a little baby Judgment, but it did catch Ney just kind of face checking. He didn't really face check. He was just really close to the Butch and he was basically alone, which is also kind of the disadvantage of picking a hero like Thrall. Thrall, not the tankiest offlaner, certainly does a lot of damage. And God, we are going all in on this AA Tychus. Minigun, that's the stuff. Normally, I do kind of think that this is the weakest of the 3 talents at this tier, at a tier that is normally Tychus' strongest tier. But if he's allowed to auto attack a lot, he's going to get a huge amount of damage, or a huge amount of healing, that is. Uh-oh, Imbuement unfortunately staying in there, and I think Imbuement, they are going to have to be content to let Imbuement die. It's going to be a 35-second death timer. Rather unfortunate for Cosmos, given that it feels like up until that moment, the momentum has been so much in their favor. Unfortunately, with that for them, I do think this is going to be a fort taken down in favor of Fountain Snipers. So it's now starting to look like a very even game. Structures are about to be completely evened out. Imbuement will be coming back alive soon, but once that happens, it's really just going to look like an even game. Kills still in favor of Fountain Snipers. Just kidding, not Fountain Snipers. Not that team that was formerly known as the Nerd Herders, that were formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts. I meant that the kills were in favor of Cosmos, that are currently called Cosmos and were actually always called Cosmos in the past. However, there was also a time when I believe there were multiple Cosmos teams, and they did have different subtitles. Beacon's going to be captured by Fountain Snipers, formerly known as Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley as the Arcanauts, but going to be just evened out by Cosmos. Not Cosmos Blue Shift, not Cosmos Red Shift, just Cosmos Vanilla. And passive play out of Cosmos this time, just kind of holding on to the point, but that does mean that Fountain Snipers, formerly known as Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts, will just take this Bruiser camp. The Goliath. The Goliaths are online, just like the Goliath that we have in chat. These Goliaths, they're online. So is this Raven. All right, passive play here ultimately does favor the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts, but it does actually look like Cosmos can just take the top beacon, and then while they're here, they can clear this real fast. I guess the question is, do the Fountain Snipers, do they decide to push bot? No, they're just going to move. They're going to look for the invade on the camp. Cosmos actually don't clear top. They move back down. And I guess between the Deathwing and the Deathwing, I think they just have better control on fights. But it does mean that they're giving up this point, so they need to contest this, and they will get it. No one has cleared this, though. This does need to be cleared. I think this does just take the keep if it is not taken care of. So now they're just all walking back as a whole team. Oh, no. It's rough. I feel that Cosmos are starting to fall apart a little bit in this late game. They are starting to split. I think that's okay. As long as it's Deathwing, especially if Deathwing can help clear this, fly, and then land, maybe they can land in time to join the team. I mean, the crazy thing, Hex, is at least that last time that we saw that crazy, at least the one time that I remember that we saw the crazy 3-man burrow charge, it was actually pre-Epicenter. All right, ultimately, the Goliath camp has been killed. Feels bad for Durotan's couch. But a lot of damage done to that top keep.
Burn, baby, burn.
Oh my! And it's just ringing around the Braxes, just trading these out. Like at some point, yeah, I don't know. At some point, I think one of the things I don't like Cosmos at this point giving up the bottom shrine. I think. For them, I think they either need to just straight up force a fight on one of the beacons or force a fight on the boss at this point. Oh, but talk about forcing. It's going to be Mosley jumping in there by himself. Arco's in here now, but he does get sundered and cocooned. So Mosley, or rather Arco's not part of this fight. Atomic Onion does get caught. Arco's in here. He's by himself, probably going to look to sword over the wall, but he's going to go right into the boss, and he's going to get stunned before he can do that, and he gets actually finished off by the Archangel. All right, and Cosmos do manage to break through that stalemate. Silver Jackal gonna choose to get the top beacon. Oh, but Imbuement's gonna go in, stops. Oh no, this is actually really bad for Silver Jackal. Arco not Arco, Oddthought can go in and try to get the kill. Okay, I think this is... I don't think there's going to be a kill onto Oddthought. It does just keep Silver Jackal alive. Man, if there was anyone else there, I think to help them, I do think that would have been a kill on Silver Jackal. It was probably, honestly, a little bit greedy and risky for Silver Jackal as Chromie to go up there and try to be the one to take the point back. So they get the beacon going in their favor, and I think at this point they're just going to try to use Cosmos. They're going to try to use the space of the boss to get the beacons. Because at this point, there's going to be a huge Zerg wave against them no matter what, and they're just going to try to look to make this as even as possible. Also going to look to take, invade the enemy bruiser camp. Material, once again. And Tyrael is definitely more of a hero who can do a little bit more of this ring around the rosy, take these points. I'm definitely... Oh, no! Odd Thought goes down there. Arco with the flank. And that is going to be pretty rough. Yeah, I think it's a little rough with Ney being the one to split. I think it should more maybe be Atlantis, but I guess the 4-man depends on Atlantis so much for that range damage, those huge breaths. What a game this is turning out to be for a game one that was such a stomp with a pick with a Cho'Gall that's like, you know, questioning, are Fountain Snipers even taking their opponents seriously? This game two is so incredibly close with a major kill advantage in favor of Cosmos, but ultimately a game that's super even. Oh my god, what an engage! Sundering them into the point. Arco is gone, so is Arco has been gone. Arco is not even in this fight. He wasn't even here. So I'm just saying the wrong thing and trying to run with it. But it's Mosley and it's Atomic Onion who do go down. And oh no, Silver Jackal. Now, again, for those of you who missed it, Silver Jackal used to be on Cosmos. I think Mosley did too, according to my research. But and before this game happened, in the coin toss lobby, Odd Thought, who is the captain of Cosmos, was saying, "Tell Silver Jackal I hate him, but also tell him I love him." So, you know, there's definitely some rivalry, some friendly banter. And I think part of the reason that Silver Jackal isn't on Cosmos is just the fact that Cosmos took so many seasons off that Silver Jackal just joined a new team, and then he stuck with his new team even when Cosmos returned. It's actually going to be a 100% to 100% Zerg wave. How is that even a thing? All right. Zerg waves are just going to be like... Oh, actually... Cosmos doing a much better job of clearing this Zerg wave before it gets to the wall. In fact, this Zerg wave is actually getting no value whatsoever. The one in the bottom lane getting a little bit of value. Actually not getting that much either. So I guess it's tough with the Zerg wave where if you do intercept it before it actually gets to the structures, the value it tends to get is pretty low. And by contrast, if you don't intercept it at all, it will actually just like go through a keep and the core all by itself without heroes pushing. Definitely more value from the Cosmos Zerg wave than the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts Zerg wave. But ultimately, the end result is we just have this game going back to even. We're at 24 minutes. And the game is really just even once again, even with so many kills in favor of Cosmos. Cosmos is honestly playing so well in this game. Like at this point, it almost feels like they deserve the win. But they don't truly deserve the win until they actually get it. And crazily enough, they actually lost. Oh, there are still Hydralisks here. The Hydralisks. So I believe the way the Zerg waves work is I believe the Hydralisks are actually like the DPS of the Zerg waves. Okay, that is super interesting. A little bit of anti-synergy between Silver Jackal and Arco. Time Stop just apparently straight up cancels a judgment. It is going to be the level 20 judgment, by the way, Angel of Justice. This does mean that judgment now is on a 30-second cooldown, and you can also use it all the way from Narnia. It has massive range. Oh my god, Silver Jackal, what are you doing? No, not like this. Not like this. I don't think he makes it out alive. My god, if he makes it out alive, that is crazy. But the huge value from the conflagration. This might just be the game-winning fight here. Big stun once again by Imbuement. That is 2 kills, 3 kills. They don't even need the balls. I think they just take the game with this. This is crazy. This is our This is our first seed against our 8th seed. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be going to game 3 yet again. I can't believe this is happening a second time. For those of you who don't already know, I've already cast a series today. I cast Div A, Gilly Shark at Bingo Night versus Boogans forever. That was another first seed versus 8th seed match. And in that series, the 8th seed upset the first seed. Are we going to see that happen again here? Because for sure already, this is game number 2 going in favor of Cosmos. And we're going to go to game 3. Unbelievable. Honestly, did not think it would happen, especially after that game 1. Congratulations to Cosmo for winning game 2 in spectacular fashion. Oh, man. What a game. What a game. Tremendous game by Cosmos there. And even though the game technically was even, and that was still very much a game where Fountain Snipers still could have come out with the win. But also 8 kills to 22. So it was a slaughter in favor of Cosmos. And yet somehow Fountain Snipers still kept themselves in a position where they actually could have won the game. Unbelievable. Whew, that does mean we're going to a game 3. We'll take a look at these talent builds. The Deathwing was fantastic. Ultimately, I do still find the draft a little questionable out of Fountain Snipers, and I think the Tyrael was... The Tyrael to me seems like it was more of an experiment than anything else. So, like, there were definitely some kills that were gotten as a result of the judgment, but I think it struggled a lot in the early game. Certainly, there were also a lot of shenanigans with sorting over the walls, Eldruin that is, teleporting, getting the point. But yeah, so we are once again in a position where the first seed is very much in a position where they might be... Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts, are now 1 game away from being knocked out of... just being knocked out of the season, knocked out of the tournament. So I did not expect to see... Especially after, like, if I'm really honest, after game 1, I was really expecting this to be a 2-0. I was really expecting it to be a 2-0, with game 2 not even being close. But Cosmos played it so close, and... took game 2, so we're at a point where, like, this could go either way. This could go either way. We'll also take a look at our map screen and update that a bit. So our winner from game 2 is going to be Cosmos, and game number 3 of the series to close out our night will be on Tomb of the Spider Queen. All right, so this final map of the series was picked by Fountain Snipers. Does mean that, of course, Cosmos want first pick. And yes, Goliath, this is not only is this the first round of playoffs, this is the number 1 seed versus the number 8 seed. As you can even see on this map screen right here, Fountain Snipers number 1 seed with an 8-2 season record. Cosmos 4-6, but apparently having some pretty good momentum right there, and definitely having the skill and the potential to play as a team in a way that they could win this game. Also, some questionable positioning from Silver Jackal there, potentially a double agent, potentially defecting back to his old team. And just in case you don't know who I am, I'm King Andrew. I'm an NGS player, NGS caster, ARAM enthusiast, former school teacher, and I'm a voice actor. And I'm here doing a doubleheader tonight. Already did Div A, now I've got Div D West. It's the playoffs. Can't wait until next week when we're going to be doing best of 5s. It'll be a little bit tricky because, oh wait, actually I don't have to play my match next week. We're going to try to schedule it for the week after that. So actually I probably can cast some matches next week. That's going to be sick. You know what else is going to be sick? This Tomb of the Spider Queen draft. All right, so I wonder what target bans or respect bans we're going to see. I would not mind a Deathwing ban at this point. Deathwing is personally one of my least favorite heroes in the game. He is a very polarizing hero. Of course, he is also very situational. His unique property of being unstoppable I find pretty annoying, and he's both a hero I don't enjoy playing as Deathwing, and I also don't enjoy playing against Deathwing. Sometimes I like to say that I would prefer it if we could go back to a version of the game before Deathwing was added. Perhaps we could call this like a classic version of the game, back when things were different and things were better. But I don't think it's going to happen, of course. Probably not going to see that. What we are going to see is the Leo banned out, 3 games out of 3. Mosley just not allowed to play that hero. And it kind of seems that Mosley's hero pool is basically Leoric and Zagara. Just kidding, not Zagara. I got distracted. Leoric and Sonya. Since he has played Sonya in both games, he has had Leo banned against him in all 3 games. And I wonder if we're just going to see the exact same bans for this whole series. Because so far, the bans have been the same. We've got the Zagara ban. If we keep on going with this is okay, it's not a Johanna. Oh, yeah. Okay. I feel like, based on what little I know about Cho'Gall, I feel like this is actually like a really good map for Cho'Gall. So I very much respect that ban on Cho'Gall. That does mean that Johanna is up. Just kidding. Johanna's going to be banned out by Fountain Snipers. Of course, Fountain Snipers do not have first pick, so if they didn't take it there, Cosmos could very much take it for themselves if they so chose to. That was something about that came out awkwardly. Of course, Imbuement plays Diablo. Played Diablo in the first game. Didn't get them to win, but Diablo is such a great hero. They could pick it here. They could pick it on this map. Gonna pick Nazeebo instead. Typically, I'm not a fan of Nazeebo for reasons that I've said before. The good thing about Nazeebo is that once again, the Nazeebo is picked on a map where it is actually good. Nazeebo is good on this map because it very much facilitates him stacking to 175 stacks, and it's also very much a map that typically goes late because the objective is pretty weak. Very similar to Volskaya Foundry in that regard. Instead, Diablo going to be picked up by Arco this game, and we're going to see the Tychus picked up by Atomic Onion. So denying that away from Frostbite, also denying that high percentage damage away that they could be using against Diablo. What I really feel that Cosmos needs right now is they need something with some kind of percent damage that can reasonably threaten Diablo. Doesn't necessarily have to be picked up in this rotation. It's going to be the Tassadar. I'm personally not a huge fan of it here. I'm, at this point, very, very worried for Cosmos. You know, I was very excited after that second game to see Cosmos do well this game, but now I'm also very worried for them going for Nazeebo Tassadar into a Diablo. I'm really worried that Diablo is just going to be unkillable this game. Thrall going to be banned out, denying that comfort pick away from Ney, so we'll have to see something else out from them. Wonder what it'll be. It's going to be the Junkrat. I think that's a really good ban. Junkrat is obviously just an extremely strong hero. We've already seen that Silver Jackal likes to play him. I think it's also just really good on this map, putting traps in between the vents that basically are where you enter into the gem turn-in area. Gonna be the Stukov picked up by Lompico and the Blaze out of Mosley. Right now, I'm definitely personally really favoring the draft out of the Nerd Herders, formerly, they're not even currently known as the Nerd Herders. The Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts. So, I'm highly favoring this draft out of Fountain Snipers, formerly known as Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts. Final 2 picks, going to be the Murden for Imbuement and the Imperious for Ney. So I think the Imperious is pretty reasonable here. I really felt that they needed something with percent damage to help threaten that Diablo, and Imperious is one of those options. So I'm happy to see that. I'm still not sure if the draft overall is good enough, but I think that at least saves it a bit. And does at least provide them a little bit more threat. Ultimately, I'm still definitely overall with that with that Gul'dan picked in that last slot for Silver Jackal. I prefer the draft out of Fountain Snipers. I kind of do think that Fountain Snipers will ultimately walk away with the Game 3 victory here, but also, you know what? I could be wrong. I could maybe not know what I'm talking about. Maybe I should shut up and play into the exciting storyline that is the number 8 seed potentially upsetting the number 1 seed. I was going to say, here we are in this game, but just not really, not yet. So, I can't believe we're even here. I'm casting 2 series tonight and actually going to the maximum of all 6 games. Cast a 3-game series earlier today, got another 3-game series right now. And it was, again, both series were the 1st seed versus the 8th seed. Crazy. So, but yeah, I really do just like I think the draft out of Fountain Snipers, formerly known as Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arkanauts, their draft this game is, I feel that it's more well-rounded. I feel that their both DPS combination and frontline combination has a lot more kill pressure, and I kind of feel like fights are going to go their way. I feel the best chance for Cosmos, again, is to try to play to 20. And this time, I think the Nazeebo really needs to go for the Vile Infection. Actually, just kidding. This almost might even be a game where I feel not going Vile Infection might be justified because Ravenous Spirit is potentially really good into Stukov. I don't know if they're going to go that, though, because in game number 1, Atlantis showed preference for the Gargantuan. I will say personally that I really do not want to see the Gargantuan here. I don't think the Gargantuan helps them win the game. I think it either needs to be Vile Infection or Ravenous Spirit. One of those two could potentially be the answer, and I really think that level 20 Gargantuan is not going to be the answer. Now, what they do have is they do have the Imperius, who provides % damage that provides more threat against the Diablo. Problem is, if Imperius is your offlaner, there are going to be a lot of times when he's just not there. And if he's not there, then you don't have that % damage to really threaten the Diablo. In the fights, when he's in the 5-on-5 fights, when he can be there, he can provide that. But yeah, we'll see. So, talking about Div D West while we're waiting for things to happen. So, Fountain Snipers is the number 1 seed. I believe in Div D West, the number 2 seed, which was LTK We Hate Objective, has already been eliminated from the playoffs. So it would be really, really crazy if Cosmos eliminated Fountain Snipers tonight, because that would be both the number 1 and the number 2 seed being eliminated from the playoffs in the first round. It would be absolutely crazy. I believe the team that did eliminate LTK We Hate Objective was Maximum Thrust. Maximum Thrust was the 7th seed, is the 7th seed. However, one other thing that's interesting about Maximum Thrust is I believe that they are also one of the few teams that beat Fountain Sniper. So either way, sounds like I haven't been following this division for most of the season, but it does sound like there's a lot of competition. Teams are competitive, actually, even across all the seeds, and it does seem like even teams that are seeded lower actually have pretty good chances of winning. All right. With any luck, we'll be going back into the game soon. Now, we're at an awkward point where the players in the game have asked if they're ready. They've called if they're ready. I was wondering if they're waiting for the caster to tell that they're ready, but I'm only set to observer, so I can't even communicate with them, at least not directly through the game itself. But either way, our game number 3 is finally getting started, and it's gonna be the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arkanauts. Mosley playing as the Blaze, Silver Jackal on the Gul'dan, Lompico is on the Stukov. Atomic Onion is going to be playing as Tychus, and Arco is going to be on Diablo. Their opponents actually doing really, really well in this series. Potentially going to upset the #1 seed. It's Cosmos. Imbuement's going to be on the Muradin. Nay playing as Imperius this time. Frostbite back on that Tassadar. Odd Thought is going to be on the Rhaegar, and it's going to be Atlantis AL on the Nazebo. Now, Atlantis AL, just starting out bottom, probably just not bothering with this level 1 fight, possibly looking to try to get an early start on those stacks. We are going to have this fight here. Diablo is going to be stunned, Muradin's going to be silenced, but ultimately nothing really of note is going to be happening here. Just a couple cooldowns traded. So, and you know what? We are seeing, right now it does look like we do see Nay in the 4-man. So someone was kind of mentioning this. Of course, I think what someone said, I think it was, yeah, it's Goliath, I can still see it in the chat, was saying if Task goes off lane, but instead we have Nazebo going off lane. Now, I think the potential issue with Nazebo going off lane is that he's not rotating between 2 lanes, so that could potentially slow down his stacking. I think the reason why Tassadar might need to be in the 4-man is because he does have the best wave clear out of any hero on the red team, or the orange team, or whatever you see it as. So I think they maybe want him in the 4-man for that reason. Meanwhile, huge amount of wave clear coming out of Fountain Snipers, formerly known as Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts, between both the Tychus and the Gul'dan. So this damage dealer combination from the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts, and previously known and later known as the Nerd Herders. Huge wave clear between both the Tychus and the Gul'dan. Huge potential damage numbers from the Gul'dan. Gul'dan is kind of a stat patter. He does do huge numbers. He does do huge numbers. And sometimes that can mean that his damage is very fake. But I do feel that with the rest of the draft from Fountain Snipers, formerly known as Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts, the rest of the draft having so much kill pressure, I think that's okay. I think Gul'dan can be content to deal his fake damage because Stukov, Diablo, and Tychus are very much capable of doing the real damage that leads to the kills. We're going to see yet another in the rhythm Tychus trying to get those stackies going. Fountain Snipers trying to get a little bit of push with this Bruiser Camp. Silver Jackal trying to use those spells. So, Gul'dan also just great for sieging. There are a lot of good things about Gul'dan. He's great for sieging. He's got great wave clear. So good, really good for taking down mercenary camps. He's got long range. Also, definitely some bad things about him. He's immobile. He has to hurt himself in order to get mana. Potentially very vulnerable. Nay goes in for a stab, but doesn't connect with anything. Arco kind of gets locked out of his gate by that force wall. Silver Jackal getting really, really low, but eventually does tap and also get some heals from Lompico. Lompico, meanwhile, is going to be going the E-build Stukov, the low blow, which it is my personal favorite version of Stukov to play. There are certainly other Stukov builds that are also very good and that other people prefer. At higher levels of play, you see a lot more. You see a lot more of both the Fetid Touch as well as the Reactive Ballistospores. But you know what? We're gonna see. I don't even have a good transition there. Tychus went down while I'm trying to talk about Stukov talents. Got trapped by a wall. Frostbite playing pretty well on that hero. And by the way, guys, we've got Odd Thought on the Rhaegar for a third time again. Yet again. So we've already seen him go the Lightning Shield at 1, Earth Living Enchant at 4. Can we guess what talent Odd Thought is going to go at level 10? If I knew how to make predictions, I would bet. I think everyone should just bet all of their non-existent channel points that you can't bet because there is no prediction on Odd Thought going Bloodlust. And you know what? I think this is actually a decent Bloodlust comp. I think this is a better Bloodlust comp than they've had in the past. We'll see Archon from Tassadar. Archon with Bloodlust is sick. Muradin, I think, is really a really good Bloodlust target, especially with Skullcracker. Imperius, actually really good with Bloodlust as well, especially with things like Holy Fervor and Burn the Impure. Meanwhile, both teams have enough gems to turn in. Fountain Snipers, formerly known as Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts, have actually more than enough to turn in. Atomic Onion getting trapped yet again. This is proving to be a big problem. The stab goes out by Nay, but it goes onto Arco. It turns out to be a bait, and the kill's going to go onto Nay and not Atomic Onion. That being said, still a little bit concerned because it does seem like Atomic Onion is struggling a little bit here, playing as that Tychus, this really short-range hero, kind of getting trapped by these Tassadar force walls and just finding himself standing in the Tassadar damage as well. Regardless, we will see the first Web Weaver phase go down. Going to be in favor of the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts. So Gul'dan really good at pushing that. Right now he's only clearing the wave. He could probably step up just a little bit more to try to hit the fort, but I think he's just trying to be really safe here. Meanwhile, Arco, once again, getting locked in by those force walls. Man, if this game does end up going in favor of... Cosmos, I'd really be looking at Frostbite as the potential MVP here. I feel like doing a lot on this Tassadar with the walls. Unfortunately, once again, locking in Arco, but with this DPS combo, not really having the kill pressure to actually threaten a Diablo and kill him. So... Fountain Snipers, at this point, who were formerly known as the Nerd Herders, and before that were known as Mosley and the Arcanauts, kind of really slowing down this momentum from Cosmos. Cosmos looking, they just look great game 2, but this game 3, it's starting to look a bit like game 1 again. Had a big stab there by Nay, but now he's standing in a silence pool, gets flipped by Diablo, and that's yet another death there. I don't like imbuement going in here. I think they just need to give up this fort, try to make sure they don't lose any more members, get level 10, probably give up a turn, maybe get the Bruiser camp and just let that D-push mid a little bit. They probably will have to, yeah, just another turn coming out from the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, who were formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts. All right, we are going to see the Garg again. I'm a little bit worried that this means that he's going to go Garg at 20. I'm also even more worried at this point that this game doesn't even go to 20. It does feel like Mosley and the Arcanauts, who are later known as the Nerd Herders and were later known now as the Fountain Snipers, that they're just kind of take control of this game and win before 20, because it's certainly looking pretty good for them. 6 to 4 instructions. There goes the Bloodlust. Oh, there's no Archon this time. It's a Bloodlust, but no Archon. It's a Bloodlust with a black hole. All right, so that was a little unexpected. They do clear mid, but we are just going to see the Odin finish that off. And ultimately, we are going to see this being cleared. Yeah, and this is starting to look a lot more like game 1, which was just very soundly in favor of Fountain Snipers. Unfortunately, part of what I think is happening is, oh no, I'll tell you one thing that's happening right now. It's Imperius probably going down. Does manage to actually use Celestial Spirit to get out. So he is going to be just fine. Was a little bit worried there with that Horrify on him, but what I'm a little concerned is happening right now is that I think there were certain draft issues that Cosmos had in game 1 that they did not fall into in game 2, and that I think they're starting to fall a bit back into in game 3. And this being having the Nazebo with a Bloodlust Rhaegar. And now we don't even have the Archon Tassadar. In game 1, we had an Archon Tassadar. We don't even have an Archon Tassadar now. We have a Black Hole Tassadar. So, what they do have at least is a Web Weaver turn-in. Cosmos, that is. We'll see what they can make of it. I don't think they'll get a lot mid. Oh, this is actually a really, really rough Web Weaver turn-in. At this point, it looks like they're more just looking for a fight. Diablo's in the back all by himself. But, I mean, he's, at this point, He is a Soul Shield Diablo against no percent damage, against Nazebo and Tassadar, and maybe an Imperius, but even when the Imperius has gone in, he kind of just gets turned on. Oh no, speak about getting turned on. Atlantis AL is going to go down. I don't know if Nay makes it out here either. Tries to use the Heroic to make something happen. Imbuement with 33 gems does jump out of there, at least manages to hold the gems for the team. Barely anything gets done with that Web Weaver turn in from Cosmos, quite sadly. Barely any damage here. Nothing was ever going to get done mid or bot with camps pushing in favor of Fountain Snipers. And now Fountain Snipers, talk about camps, they're going to get the mother of all camps. It is the boss. Level 13 Talontier coming in for Cosmos. See what they can do with that, but things are looking pretty rough right now. How much of a wall do they have top? Not even the whole wall. So it's going to take quite a bit of a defense top to make something happen. Cosmos don't even have enough return at this point. They're pretty close, and they also really don't want to lose these 36 gems on Muradin. I feel like if they lose these 36 gems, I think their hopes and dreams of staying in the Div D West playoffs go along with those 36 gems. So Imbuement is kind of the VIP right now. Frostbite takes a little bit of damage, gets a cleanse. That's kind of a cleanse that probably wasn't super necessary, and unfortunately that's going to be on cooldown right now. So Nay goes in yet again, but anytime he gets stabbed, if he stabs anyone other than Diablo, he just gets engaged on by Diablo. But the double agent, Silver Jackal, going down. Oh, we had a Haymaker Playmaker coming in from Imbuement, trying to get Arco, but Arco did find a charge on out, but now Arco trapped in a zombie wall. Now the zombie are not really trapping him, and he's still gonna go down. That is gonna be souls though. It's okay, he had souls, so he'll be back up. Odd Thought is chasing after Lompico. I feel like maybe they could have turned onto Mosley, but instead they will find Atomic Onion. What can they make with this though? Because there's no boss to get. They do have turn, so they'll probably look for that. I think they can just get turn. Imbuement turns in their 42. Very important that they drop that off, especially at this time when they have the space to just deposit those gems. And Fountain Sniper is content to just give the turn and get this camp. This camp will help D-push bot, make the threat of the Web Weaver's bot very minimal. But luckily for Cosmos, they do get the Bruiser camp along with it, and they should be able to clear this before the Web Weavers actually come down. So I think the lane they actually might want to look at is mid, so that they can be inside the area of the Bruiser camp, get the benefit of that 20 spell armor. Yep, and it looks like they're thinking the same thing. Glad to see it. Do want to make sure, do really want to see them work on these towers right here. All right, but the Odin gets thrown down for the D-push, and the Web Weaver's now at only half of its health. The top Web Weaver is gone, and these Web Weavers getting just so relatively little value for Cosmos. At least maybe they'll get this mid keep. Stun goes out from Imbuement, and then also by Nay, but Nay is actually just having a really tough time. The Imperius in particular having a hard time finding any value, because again, if anyone is stabbed other than Diablo, Arco has just been pushing him out, and using Shadow Charge, even if it doesn't get a wallbang, will just disrupt the spear charge from Imperius. He won't get the final damage on the spear. And then oftentimes, he is in a pretty tough position.
Deliver the gems to my altar before your enemies.
All right, even talent tiers, but it is Fountain Snipers, formerly known as Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley, and the Arcanauts that are closer on their way to 20. But it's still 2 whole levels for them to get there, so still a lot of game to play, still a lot of potential fights that they can find. Very concerned. Nay, charging in. Don't know if they want to charge in right now. Ideally, they want to charge in as the Bruiser camp goes down, especially that mage minion or that mage member of the Bruiser camp that actually does provide the spell armor. So, I think at this time we're going to see fights turn very passive. We might see Fountain Snipers at some point try to snipe this, because that pressure in top lane, if they can get that top keep, would be backbreaking. They might not even need to really go there. The wave at some point itself might take care of it. So the onus really is on Cosmos at this point to make something happen. They need to look for a kill. They need to look for a fight, because the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking, and now Fountain Snipers are starting to move top, and they will take out this fort if this goes unanswered. They might just be able to take this regardless. They're kind of just going to force their will with the Odin. Nay, very sadly, misses on the Gul'dan. That was a big opportunity and an even bigger fear, or is it big enough? Bloodlust in response. We are going to see the stab out of Nay, and I think they might kill Diablo. No, Diablo does go down. He is just barely caught, and there is the percent damage from level 16 from Tassadar. It is actually a double kill in favor of Cosmos, and as much as things were looking rough, they very unfortunately did lose that top keep. But they can get the boss, and with the boss, they should at least be able to get the top fort. What are the 3 remaining members of the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts, going to do with this, though? Maybe get the bot camp, have Blaze possibly just clear some waves here, even threaten this bot keep a little bit. It is kind of scary, actually, for Cosmos. Oh my god. This is actually pretty sad. I think they just straight up get this whole keep. What a play. What a play. We do have a back from 2 people, but okay, they don't get the whole keep. I got a little ahead of myself. This is still good. This is still awesome. There's just like the structures for Cosmos are just hanging on by a thread, and perhaps even more importantly, they bait the whole team into backing here, and that means they're not pushing with the boss. The boss still at least gets the fort. I think if they managed to push with it, probably could have gotten at least a keep front wall. So it does at least get the fort. Getting the fort is good. And then I think with them just being here and still seeing everyone top, I would like to see them just push this as well and possibly take another fort. At this point, another fort is a little too optimistic. I think maybe getting the bot siege camp might have been a little bit of a waste. I think maybe just doing more to the bot fort might have been better. At this point, though, 20 Talontier is here in favor of the Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders and formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts. With that, they'll just invade the enemy bruiser camp, just completely uncontested. 20 Talontiers coming in. Now, the interesting ones here, the Lord of Terror, definitely one that I don't expect that much, but going to give them a little bit more survivability and also be able to stay in the fight. Probably the big one, though, is this, Robert Weave. Good old Robert Weave at level 20. Now, this is actually, it's kind of surprising to go along with the grenade, because this is actually super sick if you actually went for AA range at 1, because you can actually get 7 AA range as Tychus every time you dash. It's super sick. It's super greedy. But, yeah. I honestly would have preferred AA range at 1 if the eventual goal was Robert Weave at 7. No, that's 7, at 20. Jesus Christ.
My power shall aid you.
Okay, blue web weavers for Fountain Snipers, formerly known as the Nerd Herders, formerly known as Mosley and the Arcanauts. I think at this point the goal for Cosmos is to kind of just stay alive. They might have to give keeps. I think they should probably just be content to give the bottom one, even though the pressure in bot lane will be really bad. And I think the goal for them really is to see if they can hold mid-keep and stay alive. So really just want to see like all the Tassadar spells. The Zebo did once again go Garg upgrade at 20, even with all the stacks for Vile Infection. I'm a little disappointed to see that, but it is what it is. I'm not playing the game. I'm not picking the Nazebo, and that's just what it's going to be. Uh-oh, Imbuement is caught in there. Now, can they, with Imbuement down, I'm not sure if they can hold any of the keeps, and yeah, they really can't. At this point, Cosmos needs to be content to just stay alive and not lose the whole game. Okay, they do get to stab onto Diablo. Diablo's actually taking some damage. He is about half of its health, but you know what's also taking damage? It is the core. My god, it's dying so rapidly. I really thought that they could just hold it and defend it core, but it's going down so quickly. And that is going to be it. We will not have a repeat of what happened in the earlier series, and this time the number 1 seed does triumph in the end. It is the Fountain Snipers winning out in Game 3. Congratulations to them. They will move on in the playoffs. They will not be upset by that lower seeded team. Nevertheless, it was a great series, and it did seem like things were starting to slip back a little bit for Cosmos in that Game 3. Game 3 ultimately did not look nearly, even though the kill count is pretty even, the Game 3 did not look anywhere near as good for them as Game 2 did. And I think definitely some of that has to do with the draft. I think Game 2 was the strongest draft for Cosmos. And I think both there is something about the Nazeebo Tassadar DPS combination that very much needs to be kind of rethought out, and really also the level 20 choice for Nazeebo, where if we're gonna be taking Nazeebo to maps where he can actually comfortably get 175 stacks, that we're actually going Vile Infection, or at the very least going for the Ravenous upgrade. That is something that I am ultimately just going to be critical of. Of course, it's not my choice, and moving forward, these players can pick what they want to pick, but I do think those were choices that mattered in this series. We'll also take a look at our talent builds here, and I will get on to whispering Arco to see if we can have an interview. And I'll get myself into a lobby. Either way, congratulations to Fountain Snipers. Potentially looking to win yet another championship. I believe they have already won at least one championship before, if not more than one. That is possible. They've been around for a while. We'll see Arco. Hopefully Arco sometime soon. Would love to talk to Arco. Not that I have any problem with the other members of Fountain Snipers, but I like Arco. And we might even get multiple people. That would be very exciting.
Multiple people.
Yo, I hear people. Let's get back to it. Who do we got? I can't even see. I don't have my Discord up.
Silver and Mosley.
Silver and Mosley. No Arco?
No. He hates interviews.
He hates interviews.
That's funny because I interviewed him a couple seasons ago. But you know what? You guys are cooler anyway.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
he's Canadian, so
No, actually, Arco is the coolest.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
He is a cool guy. And you know what? I've followed your team for several seasons going on. You guys are a team with a lot of history, with all the rebrands going from Mosley and the Arcanauts to the Nerd Herders to the Fountain Snipers. The stream has heard plenty of that all night as I've been talking about it. You've been through many seasons. I believe you have a few championship rings. You even have different generations of players where you've got your OGs, you've got your second generation. Whoever wants to speak, tell me a little about your journey as a team through all the seasons.
Go ahead, Mosley. You're the original Mosley and Arcanaut.
There's a solid crew of us that have been together, and even the guys from the original team of Atomic Onion stepped off. He used to be Meeting, so he was one of the originals that came back on as Rusty moved off. But they stick around as subs. It's just sometimes life happens and you got to move things around. But we just keep on going and kind of jumping around between DC, depending on how many teams are in, and we just like playing together. So it's great. Awesome.
And part of that history of the team that I'm actually interested in is, so Arco is one of your OGs. At some point, he left the team, played on a different team that I believe did not even finish their whole season and disbanded mid-season, and then came back to the team. Can you tell me a little bit about that? What are the politics? What's the drama there, if there is any? You can make it up if you have to.
No, I don't know. Have you ever been captain of a team before?
Effectively. My very first season, I did all the scheduling.
Maybe it's stressful, and it can be kind of a
sure.
pain to do all of the scheduling and this and that and the other, and so sometimes it's like just gotta step away for a little bit, and of course he did, and realized that everyone is super amazing and wanted to come back. So that's just how it worked out.
Very nice.
And we of course brought him in with open arms as long as he decided to be captain again.
Okay. Gave him all that responsibility. Very nice.
Yeah, I was captain for a while, and it's not a fun time a lot of times.
How many championships does your team have? I believe you're at least Div E champions once. Were you also Div D champions at some point? Did that happen? Oh, I think I actually looked it up. I think you lost a Game 5 series. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we got knocked out.
Yeah, we got knocked out. No, we didn't quite champion that one. The Div E one was pretty special because we never dropped a map. Not a single map the entire season. So that was
So I did cast you guys in like one of your matches. It was against the A team, or as I like to call them, the EH team. Back then. I cast that series back then.
More Canadians. We love it.
Very nice. Yeah, I cast you guys back then. Awesome. And so one of the other things going on with this match, I even did a little bit of my research looking it up on the NGS website. Silver Jackal, you used to be a member of Cosmos. According to the website, Mosley, you too were at some point on the team?
I was a sub.
Baby at the time.
Oh my gosh, it was my first time being on a team, and I was absolutely awful. Awful.
How did, what was that like actually playing, for both of you, actually playing against an old team?
Oh, I just want to kill Odd all the time.
Nice.
No, we love those guys. When it's not in season, or sometimes it is. We like to scrim them. We're old friends. I've known Odd and Silver, like you said, since we were on Cosmos a long time ago, and Nay and some of those other guys too. So it's not, we got lots of love for Cosmos.
Yeah, Silver Jackal, the Twitch chat was also kind of accusing you of being a double agent at those times when you seemed to just be walking into the enemy team.
Hey, that one was 100% an accident. I accidentally clicked on the other side of the wall. I'm like, well, I'm screwed.
Yeah, we don't love them enough not to play Cho'Gall, apparently.
It was really a question of like, where do your loyalties truly lie?
Well, I mean, I kind of want just Mosley to cry a little bit.
That's right. I do. But then he blames me for it. So
why have there been so many rebrands for your team? I'm actually very fond of the original name, the Mosley and the Arkanauts name. I heard that I think I might have asked at the time that the problem was like casters like not being able to handle it. Whereas I choose to actually go through literally all three of your names at once.
I think that was kind of the original decision, and was that it was people just wouldn't say the whole name, and we became the Mosleys and
the Mosleys.
and whatever the casters just felt like saying, and so we made it shorter with Nerd Herders, and then did a little bit of
why was the rebrand from Nerd Herders to Fountain Snipe?
That's a good question. I think we switched. I think we were Mosley and Arkanauts one season, Nerd Herders one season, and we were like, let's just change our name again. And so then, but we've been sticking with Fountain Snipers here for a while. I mean,
That's a running joke.
Atomic Onion put together such a good graphic for us for our team graphic. We just don't want to change.
Yeah, he played several games to get that snipe on that fan.
That's right. To get that perfect pick.
Were you expecting tonight's series to be as challenging as it ended up being in the end?
Definitely. Like I said, we screwed them a bunch. They've improved significantly, especially from the beginning of the season. And we knew it would be a tough match going into them this time. Yeah,
and Nay's been a sub for them, but they were 5-0 with him before coming into this. So I knew that was going to be a tough challenge with the stuff that he plays too. And just look at their record from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. They a bunch of losses, and all of a sudden they just started kicking everybody's butt. So we knew it was going to be tough.
Oh, very nice. Sadly for them, we do say goodbye. Their season is over, but your season still has some time left. So I think if I look correctly, last time it was that you guys made it to the finals, or at least the coastal finals of Div D. And then it was like a 2-3 loss. Are you guys ready to go all the way this time for Div D?
100%.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, somehow we snuck up to the top of the. What's that? Oh yeah.
And then on to conquer Div C after that.
Yeah. Yeah, we somehow snuck into the top spot. I don't know how that happened, but it did. So hopefully we'll be hanging on to it. We got some good teams out there though.
Yeah, we're worried about being casted because our record is 100% of the time we're not casted, we win, but we get casted, we typically lose.
Feels bad. Feels bad. That is a shame.
So, but you broke the streak, so you
I
have to
did.
pick up.
I
You have
did.
to pick up the game
I
next
have pretty
time.
good luck with that. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. It depends on a couple things. I might have my own matches to play. It's also like especially when it comes down to like finals, it depends on like the assignments or whatever. But LTK We Hate objective is already out.
Yeah, I was
And I
surprised
believe they
about that.
were
Oh, yeah.
eliminated by Maximum Thrust, which I
Mhm,
believe is
mhm.
one of the teams that actually defeated you. Who do you expect to ultimately see in the finals if you also make it there?
I don't even know. I have to look at the list. I don't even know who's in. That's how
Mosley's
bad
just
I
way
am.
too self-centered. He doesn't pay attention to anyone else.
Well, I just worry about the next game. That's it.
Yeah,
I knew
that's
it was
reasonable.
Cosmos.
Gotta worry about the semifinals before you get to the finals. Try
My
not to get
vote
ahead
is
of
on
yourself.
Rolling Thunder.
Rolling
versus us.
Thunder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rolling
that's
Thunder's
pre-
pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable
We got a
reasonable concern.
couple of
They definitely look like
CCS
one of the
teams
stronger
in there
teams.
that are good too. So
Oh yeah. I think Cheese counter skill is
Yeah,
definitely
mhm,
one to be
mhm.
concerned about. So depend. I think one of these teams, as long as we're going through all, one of them you'd have to play in the semifinals before actually getting to the finals.
Yep. So we got either cheese counter skills or creepy spiders is who we're up against next. It looks
Okay.
like so. I don't know.
Yeah,
Creepy
which one.
Crawly.
that's kind of how it works. The winner of 1 to 8 plays the winner of 4 5.
Mhm.
Oh, thanks for that explanation.
Yeah.
Come on, Mosley. It's 1-8.
Yeah. So cool.
All right.
I don't know. Yeah, I think Rolling Thunder. I think if I had to pick out all those, I would think I'd probably lean towards that one.
All right, sounds good. Sounds
Oh,
good. Well,
wait. Oh, we just see creepy
Oh.
crawly spires is the one that won their match. It looks like 2-1.
really against Cheese counter skill?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
actually pretty amazing. I personally, if I would look that map, or that match, I think I would have favored Cheese counter skill, but if it's 2-1, also sounds like it was pretty close.
Yeah. So there you go.
Amazing. Well,
Hot take right there.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we've gone on long enough. Let's just throw it to any shout outs and then we're gonna close this out.
All right. Well, I'll shout out to Odd and the boys, Naya, Atlantis, Frostbite, and
Imbuement.
yeah, I don't care about that guy. He knows that. That's good. I love them all. Great matches. Definitely was challenging. Shout out to you for casting us. It's always a lot more fun. I'm glad we actually won a casted game. Feels nice. Shout out to NGS for setting this whole thing up so we're not all stuck in unranked and ranked.
Unranked. Oh my god. The hell that is unranked.
Shout out to my team. We kept it together, had good sets. Shout out to Rusty for watching the games and supporting us, and Hemo for giving us all a bunch of a slap on the wrist, telling us what we're doing wrong.
All right.
Well, I don't have anybody else to shout out because
okay.
Silver took them all. It sounds like
Nice.
So-
Very comprehensive.
So anybody else that was cheering for us, that's great. Thanks, guys.
Well, congratulations on your victory tonight and good luck with the rest of your playoff run. You guys have a good night.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks a lot,
you as
man.
well.
Yeah,
Bye.
All right, boys and girls, that's it for tonight. Nope, there is not a third cast tonight. It's just going to be the two. Did two tonight. Both first seed against 8th seed. Both of them were first seed against 8th seed. In our first matchup, we had Div A and we had Gilly Shark at Bingo Night, our number 8 seed, upsetting Boogans Forever, a team that could have been in Nexus Division and was our number 1 seed, getting knocked out of that Div A playoff bracket. Same could not be said for Div D. Div D West, at least. Fountain Snipers, the number 1 seed, did drop a game to Cosmos, but ultimately did win out in the end. We're the stronger team. Definitely some drafting and talent things that I think could be improved upon by Cosmos, but, maybe we'll see if they're back next season. In any case, I will also be back sometime soon. There will definitely be more matches that I will cast, but I am done for tonight because I need to go to sleep. You guys have a good night and play some ARAM because it's good for the soul.